Azra Bertrand. I'm a medical doctor. I am an alchemist and mystic. I had a career as a scientist. I'm here today to talk a little bit about biomancy. Biomancy is super exciting to me. It's a combination of our biology and the biology of life, so plants and animals, and mancy, or mantic, the term mantic, which is another word for an oracle, or a magician, or someone who's divinatory and receiving intuitive messages from life.
This cold, down would chill the heart of any man.
Biomancy is very practical. It's a way of ceremonial or ritual or talismanic movement or dancing with life. And so my day always begins with going out and putting my feet and sometimes my hands on the earth with my family, with my wife and my daughter, and opening my body and my energy systems to the earth and to the sun, and putting my palms up to actually greet the sun and receive the sunlight, and the soles of my feet on the earth to receive the energies of our Mother Earth, to loosen up my energy, shake off the night, and begin to open up to the day. Remember this miracle of rebirth that happens every day, this transition from this womb or cocoon of night to the birth of a new day, and how the sun mirrors this for us. Participating in these cycles of death and rebirth, and in the seasons as well. In medical school, my experience was extraordinarily challenging, and that I knew that there was more, far more than what was being taught to me that I needed to learn. And I was surrounded by a culture and environment that did not mirror or reflect my value system, and the importance of relationship to subtle energy bodies and to spirit and to love, and the impact of emotions on health, movement, and praying and meditating and toning and chanting and listening to music. I began to come alive again. And I came alive because I really reconnected to this deeper aspect of myself, this mantic or magical or spirit energy that's a part of our health and body and our systems. And my life turned around.
At last
A whole new doorway of spirit opened, because these same pathways that open up our bioenergy systems, they open up our consciousness, they open up our spirit. So we gain access to different information, to messages coming from the natural world, to messages coming from spirit world. Our bodies are naturally magic. And when I say magic, I don't mean something far out, that you might see on TV. I mean something that's an ordinary, natural, organic magic, and that's still mind-blowing. The magical science of our body is out there waiting for us to remember and recognize. And one example of this is something called sonocytology. So sono is sound, cytology is the study of cells. And it's this reality that every cell in our body actually is emitting a frequency or a pitch. So in essence is singing. Now, this pitch, if you put a very small microphone onto the cell and you play it through an amplifier, you hear it as a musical note. So every cell in our body has this. It's not just in our bodies, but every cell in the plant and animal and fungal kingdom has this capacity and is singing all the time. So 70 trillion cells are singing this orchestra. And really, it's our job to learn how to tune in and hear this. Through biomantic practice, the idea is that we embody, we make conscious this vast primal intelligence that we have access to through our biology, through our connection to the natural world. We become this. We resonate with this frequency so that any obstacles or obstructions to that have dimmed down. Our biomantic field of energy, it comes online. So this is the journey of being a biomantic. And when we can awaken this innate magical potential within us, our body becomes an oracle. Our connection to the natural world becomes like an oracle. We can receive oracular messages from a river, from a mountain, from a tree, from a flower. We become a Gnostic. We have gnosis, direct knowledge, direct understanding of systems and information that we wouldn't ever be able to dream or think about just from our logical mind or our normal consciousness. And in today's world, and with all the confusing messages from media, from social media, with the contradictory and polarized opinions, we have to turn inwards. We have to rely on our connection to these wiser systems, these more intelligent systems, including the wisdom of our own body, including the wisdom of our deep knowing and our intuition, including the wisdom we receive from the earth. So my journey in healing as a doctor and in consciousness as a teacher and as a fellow journeyer has amplified tremendously since having a daughter. I have a young daughter now, and I want to be the best ancestor, and not just to my daughter, but to all the future generations. What is it that I could do that perhaps is most needed in the world? And it really is restoring this connection to our biology, to the earth, to the cosmos. It's about finding a new story and remembering, being a bridge really to this different world, which we all know in our hearts and our souls is here waiting for us to build. In all of life, in our body, in the natural world, there exist holonomic templates. These are our energy templates that really align us to the cosmic order, that put us in harmony or resonance with the cosmos. So Plato was one of the first people that wrote about this, and this idea of this implicit order of the universe, and as did physicists like David Bohm, this implicit order. Well, it's in our bodies, in our biology, and it's in the biology of the trees and the organic vegetables that we eat. And so when we begin to connect to these holonomic templates and restore them, pay attention to them, to the energy flows and what some people call the energy grids or dragon lines or energy lines in the body. When we begin to restore these or clear these, then our being, our body, our consciousness really comes online again in a new way, in a fresh way. Our power to work with the subtle energies and consciousness is amplified. So it was really in doing these bioenergetic practices, meditation, movement, breath work, imaginal journeys, that these old belief systems began to clear, really, and that a lot of the conditioning that is put upon us by culture, by parents, by religious systems, that began to open and clear, and I could begin to sense the magic. And it's really a felt sense in the body and in connection with others in the natural world and animals. And so really through this doorway of bioenergetic attention and practice, the magic opened and amplified. We are a small piece of a vast system of intelligence in the cosmos, in this ecosystem, in nature. And for us to grow into the beings that we're meant to be and to be able to do what we've really come to Earth to do, we need to open up that field of resonance and really touch back into that connection with the greater system. And part of biomancy is understanding this amazing fact that our body and the intelligence in our body is vast and dates back to an evolutionary process that began hundreds of millions of years ago to produce this miraculous and magical physical matter of our body. And so the intelligence of our body is ancient and really primary, whereas our thinking mind, which comes from the activity of our cerebral cortex, is a very recent development in evolution. And our thinking mind, our logical mind, our rational mind has 1/1,000,000th of the intelligence and the power of our body and our cerebellum, our primal brain centers, our ability to connect with what Carl Jung called the unconscious mind, which is the generator of creativity. It's where ideas come from. It's where dreams come from. It's where our desire comes from. It's the seed of our desire, really. And so it's by opening these fields of resonance with these vast, intelligent beings, including our body, but with all of nature, with the sun, the moon, the stars, the cosmos, that our inherent oracular nature comes online. And this is known. This is not new information, although it's been forgotten in the modern world by some people. But this, of course, was practiced by the alchemists, by the astrologers, by the ancient priestesses, by indigenous cultures all over the world. It was similar kind of understanding of this mantic, magical spirit power that comes when we are in connection with the greater whole. Ordinary waking consciousness is just a small fraction of our intelligence and our consciousness and our energy systems. Really the seat of our, what you might call our unconscious mind, which is only unconscious from the perspective of our thinking mind, because in fact our unconscious system governs our entire body. How does our skin regenerate after we get a cut? Do we have to think about it to breathe? Well, if we're not thinking about it, we're still breathing. And so these are some examples of this incredible intelligence that it resides in our actual body and in our and our nervous system is coordinated by the cerebellum. And the cerebellum is about 1/10 of the size of the cerebral cortex. So when people think of the brain, they think of the cerebral cortex. But the cerebellum, it's located in the back of the head. And although it's only 1/10 of the size, 70% of the neurons, the brain cells in the entire body, are located in the cerebellum. As such, it is an extraordinary computer. It's really more like a quantum computer. The way it's structured, its branches are actually called the arbor vitae, or the tree of life. It's set up to process vast amounts of information and in parallel and in a quantum-like effect. So this is, artificial intelligence is still trying to replicate and can't yet the power of our cerebellum. It's through our cerebellum that we connect to spirit, and we connect to new ideas, creativity, that we receive spirit messages or oracular messages or divinatory messages. When we go into trance states or hypnotic states or expanded or ecstatic states, it's really our cerebellum that's coming online. When we have imaginal journeys or daydreams or night dreams, these are being governed by this deep primal brain governed by the cerebellum. So I've had several powerful dreams, big dreams, prophetic dreams, the kind of dreams that you can feel their power, their aliveness, that have led me to this work. And one of them is a dream I had in which it was a post-apocalyptic world. It was a world that had been was very different than what we see now, in which what we think of as civilization had begun to crumble. And I was walking, it was in wintertime, it was cold. I was walking with a blanket, a woolen blanket as a coat, through the streets of New York City. But in this version of New York City, there was no power, there was no electricity, there were very few people living there. And as I was walking between the shells of these old buildings that nature was starting to retake as the grass was coming up through the concrete and the trees were going wild and and the vines and overgrowing the buildings, I turned the corner and I saw what was an old park, and perhaps it was part of Central Park. And there were groups of young people in pairs who were doing hand movements with each other, mirroring each other's hand movements in this beautiful resonant dance, almost like what some children will do on the playgrounds. And in this movement and this contact and this resonant dance that was in synchrony with each other, they were actually activating their powers, their powers that we currently would regard as miraculous or superhuman or magical, but they had somehow turned on a different biology, and this is within reach, and I know that these emergent capacities are not some far off woo-woo fantasy, but something that very much will come online in our lifetimes, or our children's lifetimes, or our grandchildren's lifetimes. And I share this work for these parts of our future selves that will emerge, and for our children and our grandchildren who will naturally have access to these energies. I'd like to invite you to participate in this with me, and we'll put our feet on the earth, our feet flat on the earth, and really feel and imagine the roots going down deep into the earth through our feet, feeling this deep-rooted connection with the earth. Taking a breath. and beginning to allow the sense of our separated or individual self, begin to allow that to soften. Our borders and our boundaries begin to dissolve and loosen so that we can really merge with and become a part of this greater ecology, this greater life, this greater natural world that exists around us. The earth beneath our feet, and the sky, and the sun, and the moon, and the stars over our heads. We are like the sacred tree of life, bridging these many worlds, allowing these energies to infuse into every cell of your body. Allowing the pathways, connections to reopen. Allowing any information or messages that wish to make themselves known to you from your own body, from the natural world, from Mother Earth. And then pulling all that energy consciously into yourself. And thank you for being with me on this journey today. I'm Azra Bertrand. I'm a medical doctor. I am an alchemist and mystic. I had a career as a scientist. I'm here today to talk a little bit about biomancy. So my journey in healing as a doctor and in consciousness as a teacher and as a fellow journeyer has amplified tremendously since having a daughter. And I have a young daughter now who who's coming to the window to say hi. And who I see dance and walk and crawl through the garden, who jumps on mulch piles and compost piles and puts the soil to her mouth and ingests these soil bacteria which grow her intestinal microbiome and make her healthy. And I see her joy and her expansive consciousness as she walks around in the meadows where we live, and in our organic garden, and in the woods and in the rivers, and how she jumps with incredible enthusiasm into the very cold rivers that run down off the mountains where we live.